And one of the gating factors, ironically, is Bluetooth. I know that everyone in here probably has tried to pair with Bluetooth. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So for example, one of the things Continua did was looked at Bluetooth and went and developed a profile. Bluetooth Classic didn't have the proper security or privacy for medical purposes. So Continua went in, it built a profile with privacy and security and better pairing. And subsequently, from this, the Bluetooth Low Energy group, which Bluetooth Low Energy will be coming out later this year, early next year, they saw that they were missing the security privacy and they built it in as well. So not only do we look at the handset to device, but then backwards and onwards through to the health record system. So the other component we brought in was HL7, so that you have this standardized set. So Continua doesn't make standards. What we do is go out and we find the proper standards and then alter them to make sure they fit the mobile paradigm.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Bormanand. I am here from the West Wireless Health Institute. I'm probably a little bit different from all the other organizations here. We're a not-for-profit medical research organization. And as Aaron so poignantly described, we have a system where healthcare costs are spiraling out of control. We have supply-demand mismatch on the part of providers and the folks who actually need their services. And Gary and Mary West are our benefactors. They saw this need, and so they provided a grant for us to really, with the single-minded mission of lowering healthcare costs. So we look at, our institute looks at this from the perspective of both internal innovation. We have a group of engineers that are looking at the end-to-end solution. So from sensor-driven biometrics on the individual all the way to where a clinician can receive that data and act on that data. We are looking at each of those aspects of the end-to-end solution. We have engineers who are developing solutions. In our group, which is strategy and business development, we are looking for where gaps exist in that end-to-end solution. And again, it's about lowering the cost of care. So we'll talk a little bit about, and I know this was part of the conversation yesterday, frugal innovation, and how do you develop devices that not only serve a given purpose, but can be delivered into the marketplace at a low cost so that people, either consumers can afford them or even disease management systems within health systems can afford these types of devices.
Okay. And Bakul, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. So this is telehealth right now, a teleconference, as you can tell. My name is Bakul Patel. I'm with the FDA Center for Devices with delivery of hands. Today, one difference I can tell you from yesterday's discussion, which I participated in, I can see you guys all now in the room. Yesterday I was flying blind. Yeah, I can see you right there, so it's good. Obviously, the Center for Devices intersect with medical devices in terms of radiation. And also, I want to point out that the Center is also very interested in bringing innovative technologies in the marketplace. My role at FDA, at Center for Devices, is to work on policies related to topics such as mobile apps, topics such as telehealth, as well as in general topics related to software and upcoming technologies. So that's my role at the center. I advise the center director. I work directly in his office, advise him in terms of what direction we should go, finding a true balance between innovation as well as safety, and not forgetting the power of effectiveness at the same time. So that's what I do at CDRA.
Thank you. I feel a little bit like Captain Kirk talking to Starfleet, so be a little time getting used to that. The first question I want to pose is for Nicole. Obviously, being a nonprofit organization and dealing with innovation, what do you see as the innovations that are maybe coming tomorrow, and maybe 2 to 5 years down the line, and then looking and speculating even farther than that, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? What do you see coming for the medical device community?
Absolutely. So again, our mission is healthcare cost saving. So we are particularly interested in those technologies that enable what we refer to as infrastructure independent care. So devices that allow people to receive therapy where they are when they need it, at the time that they need it, independent of having to travel to a certain place to receive that care. In terms of what's available today, there are very simple home-based biometric solutions. They're standalone. It's more of a one-to-one relationship. You've got a blood pressure cuff. You have a weight scale. The innovation is wireless transmission of that information to a clinician. The clinician still has to interpret that data and act on that data. There are medication adherence solutions that are also quite simple. These aren't the really fancy things like transcatheter valves that can be delivered in the context of a 2-hour procedure, but these are very discrete, simple solutions that patients can own and bring into their home and begin to own their own health care. And we feel that that's extremely powerful. The innovation there is, again, there are several technologies and solutions that are out there that fall into this category that can cost disease management systems or patients upwards of $200 a month. That just becomes cost prohibitive. I know that as a daughter, there are things that I will buy for my parents that I wouldn't necessarily buy for myself just because of where the price point is. So Boston Life Labs has a great suite of simple, sleek devices, very easy to use and at a very low price point. MedMinder is another example of a medication adherence solution that is a very simple technology. It is an electronically enabled pill box. It has a series of escalating alerts. It knows when you open the container to take your medications. And if you don't, they'll send you an SMS text. If you don't respond to your SMS text, they'll send a text to your loved one. If you still haven't taken your medication, there's an IVR system that will actually call you and say it is now time to take your medicine. The reasons we like these simple solutions, medication adherence drives an extra $70 billion worth of cost in the health system, and we feel if people are enabled with tools for medication adherence that this will help keep costs down. Play that forward into what's available in 2 to 5 years. How do we go from a one-to-one relationship of one device per biometric to a single patch-based device that can record multiple biometrics simultaneously? And not just record that information, but also filter it through smart algorithms in order to be able to predict when patients will clinically decompensate. So we live in a system of reactive healthcare where we wait for people to get sick before we treat them. How do you start to predict when a patient is at home that, look, it looks like based on your trended data that you are potentially developing some fluid overload for a patient who has congestive heart failure? Wouldn't it be great if you could see that in the context of a clinician's office, see that trend, pick up the phone, call the patient and say, look, you probably need to take an extra dose of medicine. Even if you ask the patient to come into the clinic, that office visit is still less expensive than a visit to the emergency room and to the hospital. And overall, in terms of quality of life for the individual, it's much better. So those patch-based devices are in development now. Corventus is an example of one of those companies. When you look specifically at chronic disease, most chronic conditions are lifelong conditions. Congestive heart failure, again, is an example. There's a company called CardioMEMS that has an implantable device. And implantable devices may be more relevant for those conditions that you know that you're going to have for a lifetime. So what this implantable device does is it senses the pressure in your heart and can also predict decompensation, potential rehospitalization. And their clinical data has been extremely encouraging. So again, not a commercialized device at this point, but something that's coming in the near term.